Welcome, everyone. This is the joint meeting of the Northwest Central and Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council's Planning and Land Use Committee. And we will start a meeting with some introductions since there's not a lot of us. Elise, you wanna...
Elise Swanson, Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council, and
Jonathan Williams, Battleship, Iowa, and LA Fleet Week.
Frank Anderson, Central San Pedro Neighborhood Council.
Jason Herring, Northwest Neighborhood Council, Planning and Land Use Committee Vice Chair.
Alan Franz, Coastal San Pedro, Planning and Land Use Committee.
Nave Northwest.
Diana Nave Northwest.
And I'm Javier Gonzalez Camarillo, and I'm with Central San Pedro Neighborhood Council. So welcome.
You've got some people on.
We also have people online. So that Robin, we'll start with you.
Okay, Robin Rudislaw, the chair of Coastal San Pedro Land Use Committee. And by the way, I emailed the rest of the committee just to make sure they know at least now that we're starting.
Okay.
Well, this is Cedar McCoy.
Doug, you want to be next?
This is
Oh, yeah, Doug Epperhart, President, Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council. I'm loving the effect outside the door there. Is there like a
Trash truck, it's Athens, I checked.
Don't
okay.
look at it.
Wow.
It's right
Don't look at the
smack.
light.
It's right smack in the middle. You can't avoid it.
I know.
Sorry.
Fascinating effect.
Sorry about that.
What is it? God, no.
It's a trash truck.
Oh, good. It'll go away. Okay.
It'll go away. It shows up twice.
Okay. And Joyce, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Joyce Cooper, the Director of Branches for the Los Angeles Public Library.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have some people attending. Welcome to introduce yourselves.
Fran, you want to introduce yourself? Janet, you want to introduce yourself?
Sorry about that. Jenna McLeod, League of Women Voters of Palos Verdes Peninsula and San Pedro.
Thank you. Very well. We'll get started with our meeting. Our first item on the agenda is Joyce Cooper, Director of the LA City Library Branch Services. And she'll give us an update on the conditions at the local San Pedro Library and some of the funding that is being put aside for the roof replacement and other repairs.
Thank
Joyce,
you. Yep.
welcome.
Thank you. So first off, I wanted to start by saying we did receive the letter that you sent to John Zabo, our city librarian, kind of outlining your concerns. So thank you for the letter. And I am here to provide an update. We have had some issues with the biggest problem at San Pedro right now is the roof. And we have had some issues with leakage and water seeping through in a particular section of the library, kind of towards the back. I would like to report that we have removed the plastic sheeting and patched up the ceiling tiles a little bit. There's some like other material there right now because it's still raining. But we at least took the plastic sheeting down so it wouldn't look so horrible. And also the last time it rained, it didn't really leak too much. So we were very thankful for that. But I did want to let you know that in our next fiscal year budget, which begins on July 1st, we do have allocated the full funding to do a full roof replacement of the San Pedro Library branch, and part of the roof replacement work entails also doing the interior work on the ceiling and replacing any of those tiles that do have water damage, ensuring that there's no more water incursion into the branch. So, you know, we are a city department, so I will preface it by saying we do have to schedule the work with the General Services Department that does service all of the city facilities. So our facility staff is already in communication with them. They are aware that this is work that we would like to see started soon after the release of the money for our new fiscal year. So I can always come back and provide you an update once the work has been scheduled and let you know kind of when it's planned to be done. I will tell you from our experience at a couple of our other branches where we've had to replace the roof, it is an involved process that involves having to close the branch for a couple months to get the roof taken off and replaced. And, there's just a lot of work involved in it. And that is a larger branch. So it's going to take us a while. But once I have more information about when and how long, I'm happy to share it with you. And maybe I can just email it to you, Javier, and you can share with the group once we get like some dates set. As far as the other things that were brought up in the letter, you mentioned exterior paint and parking lot upgrades. I was at that branch a couple months ago when we started the dog adoption program at San Pedro, and I did notice that the parking lot does need some restriping and some updating. The asphalt is kind of old, so definitely this is something we will take a look at in this coming fiscal year to see if we can set aside some money to take care of just some general updating to the branch. We are in the process of updating painting and things like that in all of our branches. And we still haven't got, we're scheduled right now through the end of this fiscal year, which ends in June. And we haven't received the next schedule. Our facilities management team kind of puts that together. So I will also check and see if San Pedro's on that list to get painted. But we will definitely take a look at those two things. And I appreciate you bringing them to my attention because there are two things that I will definitely take a look at. I am trying to see if there was anything else. I think those were the main concerns that you had shared in your letter. Was there something that I didn't address that you would like to know about?
I don't know that was in the letter, and I'm not the one who brought it up, but someone was concerned about the condition of the kitchen
And the restrooms.
and the restrooms.
Okay, definitely we can take a look at those. That had not been brought to my attention by the staff, nor have I received any patron complaints about it, but definitely I will make a list and find out. And we're talking about the staff kitchen or the
Yes.
kitchen in the community room.
Yes, yeah, I had the experience of having a meeting there, so we realized how outdated it is, and I think even for their own use, it's just not up to current standards. I think
Yeah.
it needs a little help. Ventilation for one, it's not available that I could see.
Okay.
I think one of the other things that we brought up was also the general lighting outside for safety purposes as well, because that corner seems to have some issues with vagrants and other things happening there. So they take advantage that the corner is very dark. And honestly, I didn't realize that was the library when I first got into town, because it's kind of hard to see even the signage. So I think if we could get something to help along those lines would really improve the feeling of that area.
Yeah, we can take a look at the lighting issues when we take a look at the parking lot issues. I will mention that San Pedro is one of our older branches. We have a few older branches spread out. So just to put it in context, I oversee 72 branches throughout the city. So San Pedro is one of 73 locations in the Los Angeles Public Library system, including the Central Library. So there are, a few of our branches spread out throughout the city that are older and have, a lot of issues that are, some of it's due to the design at the time that they were built. Some of them are just, things that have come up because it's been a long time since we've done a full, overhaul. But, the library system is engaged in a master facilities plan to kind of evaluate all of our locations and determine, what needs upgrade, what needs to, a full like head to toe kind of thing, and to kind of really look at the space and how we're using it. And does the community still use the branch the way it was set up, or do we need to kind of change it around? So those are all things that generally we're kind of trying to address through this. This is a multi-year plan, however. So that will not happen tomorrow, but I did want to let you know that we are kind of embarking on a full kind of view of all of our branches and to see what still works, what doesn't, what do we need to fix, what do we need to upgrade. And so that will, more information on that will be coming out as we progress through this process. And we've kind of just started that. So, that will also be coming in the next few years. But definitely I can take a look at some of these things that you've mentioned, see if this stuff we can schedule for to try to take care of. We do have an A&I budget set for the branch libraries. I'll just have to make sure, that we can actually have funding for some of the things that need to get taken care of and get estimates and see how much it's actually going to cost to take care of these things.
How can we have input into the master facility plan that you're talking about? How can the community have input into that?
Once it actually gets undertaken in earnest, there will be a very large community input component to that. So you will definitely hear about it. We just, like I said, we're just kind of starting off on that. So once we actually get into the thick of it, there will definitely be there's actually a dedicated time for community input, and we are going to have to contract with somebody to make outreach to all the neighborhood councils and different community groups and different stakeholders. So you will definitely hear about it.
Can we get the San Pedro one moved to the front of the line since we're one of the oldest branches?
I have older branches than San Pedro. I would love to say yes, but I have to look over the entire plan for next fiscal year. Like I said, I have 72 locations that I need to look out for, and some of them have some very serious issues that we're going to have to deal with. So, but I will make my best faith effort to try to get, especially if they are things that we can easily kind of take care of, then definitely we will push those up to the front of the list. If it's something that once we, get estimates and stuff that might be a little bit more involved, we may have to look and try to schedule that in somewhere, and I can always get back to you about that as well.
So I have a quick question in regard to timeline, and I've heard most of what you said. I came into the conversation a little bit late. This is Mona Sutton. I'm on the board of directors of the chamber as well as this committee, and I have a business of one block down. So I've been there 30 years and watched the library and in its entirety for the challenges as well as the good things that we've been able to do as a community, and me as a community member on site. A couple of things that I don't know if it's been addressed, but in regard to what can you do short term in regard to who cleans the grounds at the location besides is there, because we have an issue there at the location of having a lot of trash and a lot of things happen with our some of the vagrant problems that we're having. So you probably know this, but that library has an issue with bad reputation for being a lot of trash in the area on and around. Community groups keep it clean mostly because there's a bus stop there as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can do in terms of in the short term of frequency of when the gardeners come? That's number one. My question number two is having partnered with former council member Joe Buscaino with that small LA neighborhood initiative, the Lonnie grant that Buscaino was able to get to making a little sister cities corner. Myself and my business partner partnered to help with the landscape, but moving forward, there's very little maintenance on the corner, and also a lot of the water in the irrigation to the whole building is non-existent. So having partnered with the council, both council members moving forward, I want to put a bug in your ear about the irrigation for that landscape that I was partially, and my business partner at my restaurant was partially responsible for doing that landscape onto the corner. There's no irrigation. There's a lot of wires cut. Could that be part of the plan as well, to look at the sprinkler system and the irrigation? It's a huge issue at that location. I know I've thrown a lot at you, let alone in the short term, can we get exterior paint done faster than, the whole entire redo?
So to answer your first question, I'm not familiar with the sister city, like the corner that you're talking about. I'll have to take a look at that and see if it's actually on library property. And if it is, then we can definitely take a look at that. Sorry, I'm in downtown LA and there's a lot of sirens
Okay.
outside my office right now.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
He's okay.
All right. So we will take a look and see. Like I said, I'm not familiar with that corner. I'll have to check with the staff there to see if they are familiar with it and see what the issue is there. And if it is on library property, then we will take a look at it. As far as landscaping and cleaning up the lot, we do have contracts with companies that are supposed to be maintaining the landscaping at the location. We also have a contract to get the parking lot cleaned up. And if there's ever like human waste, we have a contract to have that come cleaned up. Or if there are like, syringes or things like that left behind, we have a contract with a company that can come and pick that up. And I will say David Ellis, who is the senior librarian at San Pedro, is really, really conscientious about making sure he takes care of issues at the branch. He has a really good relationship with the LAPD in that neighborhood. He has the senior lead officer. He has a good relationship with him. I know that they've been in contact quite a bit about dealing with some of the issues with people hanging around the parking lot, some of the things that come with that. So it's been something he's been constantly kind of touching base with LAPD about. And drug use that has happened around the branch. So I know that he's been working very diligently on trying to get that kind of taken care of and getting LAPD to come around more and check out and make sure people aren't up to no good around the branch. But I will look into the thing you mentioned about the irrigation. I wasn't aware that that was an issue. David has not mentioned it to me, so I can follow up with him and see what's going on with that. As far as the exterior paint, like I was mentioning earlier, we are a city department, so we are on a fiscal year, as you know, you probably are too. So our fiscal year starts July 1st. I'll have to look and see if it's scheduled, and if it's not, if there's a way to fit it in for this fiscal year. And we're going to need to get an estimate and see what the cost would be and see if we can get it slotted in for this coming fiscal year. But I did confirm that we do have the funding to replace the roof, so we are going to take care of that.
Okay, super. Thank you for answering my questions.
Oh, you're welcome.
Doug, you have a question?
Oh,
You're muted.
Okay, there we go. So firstly, I wanted to say, I remember visiting this branch the week it opened. So I wish you'd quit saying it's an older branch, because it just makes me feel my age every time you go. Yeah. So I just want to sort of reiterate a few things, but one of the areas that I don't know that anybody's touched on yet is the parking lot in the rear, which is actually a fairly significant size. And I think gets ignored a lot. And I have been, it's a long story, but I used to work the elections check-in centers back before everything was mail-in. And we would be back there late at night collecting ballots and equipment. And I saw some pretty scary stuff going on. I don't know what the current situation is, but when the library is not open, which is actually a fair number of hours, there's a lot that goes on back there. And I don't know what security is like, but it might be worth thinking in terms of cameras, if that's possible. It's just a thought. I don't know if security systems are a part of anything you're looking at in terms of upgrades, but I would recommend it.
Yeah, we're actually upgrading our camera security system as we speak. So San Pedro's already been visited, and they've already inventoried the cameras that they're going to need, including exterior cameras. So those will be coming.
Okay, that's great. I think that would be very helpful.
Yes. And as far as when we're closed, that's part of why David is trying to foster such a good relationship with LAPD, because unfortunately, if we're not there, it's like we really do rely on them to kind of patrol, and they know it's a problem area. And so, you know, he's just constantly kind of trying to communicate with the SLO to make sure they understand, hey, we need you guys to, you know, come around more often and keep an eye on things. Because even, you know, when we're open, you know, things happen. And like I said, David does an excellent job of addressing them as they come up. And, we have some tools at our disposal, but really a lot of that depends on LEPD kind of doing their due diligence as well and kind of keeping an eye and helping us out.
Okay, thanks.
You're kind of fading in and out with your voice. If you could stay closer to your microphone or turn it up a little bit, it would be helpful to us.
Well, and I'd like to dovetail on something that Doug said in regard to parking lot. That parking lot has the ability to put chains up to keep vehicles out on all the corners. And vehicles can't parking overnight and shall we say illicit behavior out of not just people on foot, but people in vehicles in that lot is an issue as well. Is there any way moving forward? Because I have been part of the team for the safety team with the senior lead officers and pushing and driving the effort to see to it that that David has that type of support from Los Angeles Police Department. But moving forward, there's some by design things that can happen, and Doug, thanks for bringing it up in regard to the actual parking lot, because I know there are chains there that are not being used. So do you have the ability at that location to have those chains put up at night to keep at least the vehicles out and to set that standard moving forward in any capacity?
I can look
That would
into it.
help.
Yeah, we should be able to lock the gates. We do it at actually most of our branches. We lock the parking when we're closed. So I
Yeah.
wasn't aware that the back lot wasn't getting locked. So I will look
Yeah.
into that.
Front and back, because the front entrance does have poles and there is a chain there. There I can't remember.
There's actually a gate there
There's a
in the
gate there.
front. That's
Yeah.
there's a gate that's electric. And I know that they closed that. The problem with that front lot also, there's like that little walkway on the side. So even when the gate is closed, people can still kind of get into the lot, although the cars can't access it, but people could still
Right.
access the space.
So just the vehicles alone would be a big help.
Mhm.
That would set a standard for something new there at that location.
Mhm.
That would be
Definitely.
wonderful. That would be
Okay,
wonderful. if
I
those
can
could
look
be-
into that too.
Thank you.
Jason,
Yeah, just to clarify, when you said there was budget for the roof replacement, I'm assuming that's next fiscal year starting in July. So
Yes,
we expect the roof to be replaced before the next rainy season?
that is my sincere hope because we need to get it done before it starts raining again. So yes, definitely. Like I said, my facilities department for the library, they're very aware that this is a high priority. So as soon as we can get it scheduled, we're gonna get it scheduled. We already have an estimate. We have the money set aside. So it's just a matter of getting it scheduled. And ideally it'll happen before the rainy season because that'll just throw a wrench in everything. So yes, definitely our goal is to get it done before it starts raining again.
Joyce, one more question. You talked about the master plan.
Uh-huh.
Would that include eventually full replacement of the library at some point?
It depends on what the historical status of the building is. If there's any sort of historical overlay on the branch or something that we can't touch, then no. But if there isn't, and there is a way to kind of replace the building, that will be something we'll have to look at and evaluate and see, if that's the way we need to go. I can't, without actually going through the process, I can't really say one way or the other.
Yeah, I think, ultimately, I think everybody would agree that we would love to have a replacement building. I mean, there's so many things wrong with the design of that facility that I think we could definitely improve on that. And like you say, it's an old facility and
Yeah.
it's kind of hidden, like I said, it took me a while to even realize that was the library because I went by and didn't realize. I always looked at the backside and it always feels like it's turning your back towards the street. So
Yeah, let me just pipe up real quickly and say, I'm not aware of anything about that building that is historic.
Okay.
It
that's
was,
good to know.
it was,
We're old enough that it's become historic. Don't forget that.
yeah, well, it was constructed in the
We're
early,
historic.
it was constructed in the early 80s. I don't think there's anything terrifically distinguished about the architecture. And I don't think there's anybody famous associated with it unless they're sitting in that room there at the chamber.
well, you were there, Doug, so that was a good one.
What I just said, nobody famous.
That's not a Frank Lloyd Wright.
No.
Definitely not. No, maybe a Frank Lloyd Wrong.
Well, thank you. Anybody else has,
Well, Joyce, this is
comment?
Elise with the Coastal Neighborhood Council and the San Pedro Chamber of Commerce. I just want to thank you so much for being here tonight, and we look forward to updates. I'm a huge fan of the LA library system. I'm in the San Pedro branch on a weekly basis, and we just appreciate your time and maybe coming back to provide future updates, because we want to partner with you
Yes.
on the improvements to the library. And if there's any advocacy or work we can do, just let us know. Because you've got a group of people around the table that really care about that branch. So.
And
I know
I'm,
you-
yeah,
a
I'm
lot of
gonna
work.
pipe up again and just let you know, my daughter is a librarian.
Yep, yep. And
She's
so.
at the Robertson branch.
Oh,
So
awesome.
we really care. And so anything we can do to help too in the partner, we appreciate,
What-
any words of wisdom.
Sure. What's your daughter's name, Doug?
Amy Epperhart,
Oh,
she's
yes. Mhm.
she's the YA librarian at
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Small world.
Mhm.
So I appreciate the support. I really appreciate you giving me time to kind of talk about the library. And I will definitely be back to give you some updates once I have them. And thank you for bringing up these issues that I wasn't aware of. I will take a look at them and see what we can figure out. Happy to come back. But if you could just give me a little bit of time to kind of figure out
Okay.
some of this stuff, but I'd be happy to come back. What is it now? The end of February. Maybe if we say like in a couple months, I could come back and see if I've made any headway with any of this. I'd be happy to come back.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Excellent.
Appreciate Joyce.
Thanks,
All right.
Joyce.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to log off because I've been
Okay.
at work since very early this morning, so I'm going to go home now. But thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
for
time.
caring. All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
And I just want to follow up to, because of the letters and the work that we've been doing, I know Councilmember McCosker introduced a motion to ask for a report back on how much money they actually have allocated, and if there's anything we can do or additional funds or expediting. He's asked for a full report back. So that's good news.
Yeah, we need to get the council file number. I don't think the motion that.
I thought it did. I'll check and see if Anissa sent us the, I don't know that she did.
Yeah, I got the motion, but I'm not remembering it.
Okay.
Painting day.
Very good. We're gonna move on to our next item on the agenda, which is Jonathan Williams with the USS Iowa. And he's gonna talk to us about the PAIP funds. Let me get that on the screen.
Thank you. Some of you may have seen this at this point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not even gonna follow my notes on this. So kind of formulated this really to talk about, sense of arrival. This is an overhead shot of what I call the north side of the LA waterfront. It is the arrival to the LA waterfront. And really it's the arrival to the industrial complex that we currently see. If you go to the next slide, I like to go through this rather humorously. But if you can imagine, if you invited some friends down to the weekend to hang out with you on the waterfront, or you're coming out of the valley to cool down on the waterfront, or going on a cruise or any of that, you come down and you're excited to approach the waterfront because you're going to cool down and you're going to see the water and something that you don't normally see, and you pull off the freeway and this is what you see. This is the first thing you see, what I call the asphalt jungle. And you can see the waterfront is pretty hard and difficult to notice in that picture. You can't tell you're actually at a waterfront at this point. And generally, and by the way, we've watched this over 11 years. This is a normal occasion for us that we hear from people. So they turn right, they follow their trusty Google Maps. If they're coming to the ship, they may have found us because we're now the #4 attraction on TripAdvisor in all of LA behind Griffith Park, Getty, and Queen Getty, Griffith Park, Universal. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Amazing.
So we turn right and we drive down Harbor Boulevard, and people think, maybe they're on the wrong track. Maybe they took a wrong turn somewhere. So they continue down the road and they get to this next stop about 2 blocks down the road, which is the next slide. And this is what you're looking at, is the field to the side with the nice broken down fence on the right. And you look over to the left And you can't quite tell there's a promenade, by the way. It's really difficult to see. There's much there on the left with the promenade. And it looks like a large industrial parking lot at the cruise terminal. The center divide, which is rather clean in this picture that I took off of Google Maps, is highly unusual. That's the first thing I noticed. Usually it's fairly messy because I look at it pretty often. So you continue down, you obviously can't turn around here, but you're thinking, maybe I should turn around. Maybe I should do something different. Maybe I took the wrong way. What's interesting is if you get off Gaffey, you'll get a far better arrival experience with the neon sign saying, welcome to San Pedro and the trees down the middle. So you go to the next and you decide you're going to take a turn around or you're just going to turn left and go to the Iowa. And this is what you end up in. About 5 days a week, you end up in this. 5 to 6 days a week, you end up in this with the cruise traffic that's picking up even more. And I like to call the game of pedestrian Frogger that you have going on right there. It's fairly normal for Frogger to happen down at that footprint for any of you that have been down there. Let alone, I'm not even going to talk about the parking lot maze for those of you that have driven that multiple times to try to figure out how to get into that. And you sit in this traffic for about 20 minutes. This takes about 25 minutes to get through. Before you ever get to the entry of the parking lot. So at this point, you probably think to yourself, the person visiting the waterfront thinks to themselves, gosh, something must have happened. There must have been an accident. You know, I'll sit in this, it's rare. Well, they go around the whole drive and this is always fun to watch. They pull into the parking lot. They finally get in the parking lot, which is the next slide. And this is what they look at, is a giant asphalt jungle. Surrounded by what I call prison-like fencing, which is about 12-foot fencing on the outside of it. And we commonly hear on a regular basis, if not every day, that people ask, when are you leaving? Or are we allowed here? Because it's a Navy ship. And it's, by the way, very industrial in nature. And they take some pictures and they load up in their car and they leave. Because as you can see, if you look beyond the fireboat structure at the end, or you look over at the Topaz building or that direction, you could obviously sitting in the parking lot, you could tell there's a lot to do in San Pedro, right? It's a little sarcastic.
Yes, no, it means.
So folks literally get in their car and we send them away and they go somewhere else or they find another way to get to where they're going and walk away with a lack of a sense of arrival. They don't get out and walk the promenade. We don't actually see people join the promenade until they get to about the harbor cut. That's where people start to enjoy the promenade, is the harbor cut on down towards the West Harbor side. On our side, once you hit the fire station turnout, you approach the Crowley metal fencing with chain link on top of that. And it's very uninviting and you don't see much that comes this direction. So it's actually pretty sad. So we get a lot of people that leave, they go spend their money in another place, or, you know, they may decide that this is not the waterfront they want to be at. It's very industrial in nature. So those that do get on cruise ships, may think to themselves, gosh, I'm just tired. I want to get on a cruise ship. I'm tired of doing this. I've driven an hour. There's not much to see. I'm going to get on a cruise ship. Maybe I'll see something different when I get off. And when they get off, this is what they see. Next slide. The terminal, 93? This is what you see when you look out there. Over the right, can you see that nice Bellagio fountain over there? No, obviously not. Obviously not. Yeah. You can't even tell there's a promenade over there. In fact, you see a strip mall. And I've walked this for how many years at least? 7, 8 years. We've walked this numerous times and looked at this. And when you stand there, if you ever have the chance to stand there and look out that direction, you are just amazed. San Pedro looks like it has nothing to offer. Zero to offer. People get in their cars and leave from here. Down on the bottom, we tried something out about right before the pandemic about putting little stickers on the pavement to see if people would move. And they actually did. People walked. What happens is people, instead of walking the promenade to the right, to that direction, they actually walk in front of the blue building and everything and walk down to the Iowa with all their luggage. And then they spread out in the parking lot and they go spreading everywhere, dragging their luggage. We've all seen that one. So luggage storage is something that's also important to be able to give them an opportunity to enjoy the rest of the waterfront. So overall, it's just a lack of arrival experience. I can say it does not rival even Long Beach, San Diego, any of those waterfronts that says you have arrived. You don't, when you get here, you haven't arrived. You still don't know if you have arrived until you've driven about a mile inland. And once you drive a mile, you start to see some of the new developments. I had actually our architect say, yeah, I didn't realize he said, I drove, it took me a while until I finally get to the new development where the road splits off and I thought, oh my gosh, it's a waterfront. It's pretty. So next slide is, so what we did is when we were no longer relocating, and it just got way too costly to relocate, it kept ballooning and ballooning and ballooning and ballooning. With the refurbishments we had to do, I pulled the plug and said, this is absurd. We're not doing this. We'll stay where we're at. We reached out to SWA architects, which are the ones that created the connectivity plan, at the beginning of January. Well, about the first week of January, and I gave them a 2.5-week deadline to whip these things up. There's not much on these other than some of the basic concepts that were included in the connectivity plan. We are not stuck on any of this. I want to be crystal clear. We are not stuck on any of this. We just threw something together, taking the connectivity plan, merging it into the property to give everybody an idea what this looks like. We spent the money ourselves on this to be able to present this, to give people an idea of what could look like. So what you can see here is a shot from what is that, the east side, the south side of the ship, looking out towards the parking lot. There was a promenade that would be over to the right that connects directly to the secure gate at the cruise terminal, which is a Coast Guard secure gate. Walks over in front of the ship, the promenade connects in front of us, replaces the fire lane with a promenade driven fire lane, and then has the luggage storage, the things like scooter rentals, bike rentals, those kind of things on the pier, as well as memorials, public art, different activations that would draw folks down that waterfront. Over to the building that we already have some funding for on the building side, that may include a restaurant, but really primarily it's a multi-use community facility that can be used for meetings and events and galas and those types of things, and 2 different connection points. So if we go to the next slide, we'll go into that. I think it's the next slide or a further slide down. Here's an entry into First Street. If you know what the entry into First Street currently looks like, it's not very appealing. This is making it more appealing with the signage. I'm not stuck to the anchor on the left. I've had some people say, let's do something different than an anchor. I'm fine with it. And I just had SWA throw something there. You can see the painted crosswalks, really beautifying it, really giving that sense of arrival that you have gotten to a waterfront. Next slide. This is our building, and it's not going to look like that actually, but it's a building with some wayfinding signage, some outdoor seating, some art activations. You can see the public use of it, and you can see a promenade underneath the collars over to the right there. A promenade cut over between the fire department and the Crowley building that would cut right over to the harbor cut. Really, the key is to have something that keeps drawing people forward, because if it keeps drawing people forward, they keep walking. We've seen that with a lot of successful waterfronts. Next slide. Here's an overshot that shows some of the different things, some of the activations, some of the roadway realignment, a smaller roadway over to us. And this is just our property, let alone further down towards the off-ramp of the highway. Some art installations, artifact installations. We've got, boats that we're looking at putting in, some neat boats that would be part of maybe the circle and the roundabout to the right there. Where we already have funding for the San Pedro Fallen Veterans Memorial that we're going to install. We're going to work on a Los Angeles memorial and a California memorial, and working on an Iowa memorial as well. And then maybe something for 48 other states, but not memorials for 48 other states, something that will recognize the 48 other states. You can see the cut over here to the right that cuts over to the water cut and connects directly into the water cut, or you could continue down to the existing promenade and go that direction. We're talking about having a conversation with the fireboat to see what they may want to do with the fireboat there, and basically just try to clean up the entire from bridge to water cut. And make that really a sense of arrival, that you have arrived to a waterfront for everybody. I mean, whether it's walking, the bridge to breakwater walk, something that's more beautiful, enjoyable, something to watch, whether you want to get and have a picnic and enjoy time with the family down at one of the plazas or the memorials, or, bring friends down and enjoy the waterfront, or people that are cruise passengers dragging their luggage all through the place. Something that really says you've arrived at a waterfront, like at a world-class waterfront that we so-called advertise ourselves at. I think next slide. We currently have 6.7 million from the state that Mike Gibson was able to secure, and we just encumbered it yesterday.
Yes.
And that we've already talking to architects on. That only covers the red boxes that you see up there. That's our existing property. That only covers the red boxes. And frankly, it's probably only going to build a shell of a park and a shell of a building at this point. We've got this funds 3 years ago and inflation and everything, so that will cover that side of it. We're gonna work on some private funding and things for memorials and some of that, but I think the rest of it, outside of those red boxes, is really kind of programming that falls on port property, which is outside of our scope, even though we spent the money to come up with some ideas and show it to the public.
So that's your PAIP application and proposal. That's the PAIP funding.
Yes, that's what we're looking to the community to do, is say, hey, this is important to finish off the waterfront. I mean, there's been a lot of investment in the center core of the waterfront. There's a lot of investment down on the south side of the waterfront that's gone on with the investment into Altasea, Cabrillo Aquarium, Marina, all of that down there has had a heavy investment. On the north side, there's been very little investment on that front. And so it's kind of completing the waterfront and giving that sense of arrival that you've arrived at a world-class water.
Or would not be nice. Wow.
Jonathan, I have to compliment you. I mean, I tell everybody this, I've spent how many years on the asphalt for Fleet Week down there, and we need trees, we need greening, I mean, and that, like you said, that whole connectivity piece, so people are, have an enjoyable walk up and down Public Boulevard, connectivity downtown.
I think it's pulling it all together. When I talked to our architects today, things that I would like to do, which we don't have funding for right now, is I think would be a really fun thing to do, is things like taking posts in the parking lot and putting laser projection on them. So we could do laser projection shows on the side of the ship on Friday and Saturday nights, or Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. That's just open to the public. You don't have to pay some to come do that. Another thing we really want to do is a waterfront restaurant on the second deck of our building, so you can look at it.
Yep. We really need a waterfront restaurant.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, so that's something we're talking about and very interested in doing. Interestingly enough, the Navy, I haven't gotten it, so I can't guarantee it, but the Navy in San Diego, when Paramount filmed Top Gun Maverick, they built an I-bar set that was twice the size of the real I-bar and put it in containers and left it with the Navy. And the Navy's like, what do you want us to do with it? And they're like, that's yours, do whatever you want. And so the Navy asked me, hey, do you want the I-bar set from Top Gun Maverick? And I'm like, how big is this thing? Like, I think it would be fun to have like a restaurant that's built with the Top Gun Maverick I-bar set. So I don't want to build a whole restaurant with that set, but I think it would be kind of fun with it. So, I mean, there's a lot of fun ideas that can be done, really, in our section and our property. But really, at the end of the day, it's about creating that sense of arrival of getting to the waterfront on that end.
Can you prioritize among the various elements of that? Can you prioritize as between, say, the trees in the parking lot and the connectivity with the cruise terminal and the baggage storage, say, and then, exposing the fireboat? Like a tent.
What would I prioritize first, is what you're asking me?
Yeah, what's most important, do you think?
I can tell you this right here, well, it's hard for me to prioritize all this. This section, all of this right here is absolutely horrid.
Yeah.
It is horrible.
What do we call that? The
Entrance, the
Entry
First
gate.
Street entrance?
Yeah, it is beyond horrible. I mean, frankly, there's a Swinford entrance right off of 47 that can go into the cruise terminal. You could back them all down here, but this section here, and we watched it at Fleet Week, it's just a disaster. And you get over here, and
That's a
this
mess.
connection here, because you have a fence that goes through here, that's the security fence. Painting some kind of crosswalk. I mean, it'd be great if they did promenade, that really made it look promenade in the cruise terminal that continued over, that brought this promenade here, that made people go and follow something. If they follow this promenade down here and over here, and you get them over here, they're starting to see stuff and follow things. Right now, what you have is this dispersement.
And they're coming through the.
It's horrible. You got this disbursement, and then you got people coming down to enjoy it, and there's nothing to do. I mean, it's inevitable. So
What does it that needs to be done there? That's not even an entrance now, is it?
this road, right now, this is a wider road, and you have to drive all the way around here, all the way to the ship. And that's the parking entrance. When you go to the racetrack, and then that continues over.
What do you want to do there?
I want to take this racetrack, and that's only an entry to the Iowa, narrow that road to pick up a little bit more parking spaces with an entry over by us, so you can enter for the ship in the smaller parking lot here. and then have the cruise terminal go directly into the
Yeah,
cruise terminal.
that makes
Okay.
all the sense in the world.
That's what I'm looking at. Now, could be other solutions to that. There's other ways to deal with that. But right now you have people that go this and then they go like this, and then I got taxi cabs here. I got more urine bottles on the side of that road than you would ever know. It's nasty.
Sharon, do you have a cost estimate for that?
No one, everybody asked me, Pat, I just had him whip this up 3 weeks ago. I have no idea.
Okay.
So that 10 million you gave me was,
10 million, I can do 10 million with this promenade right here. I could do that for 10 million. I can't do the whole parking lot and all that. So I think the roadway, you probably do the roadway and some of that, right, the 10 million. But once I started looking at it, if it was just the Iowa property, yes, but when it started really looking at being a bigger issue and the arrival of the waterfront, 10 million won't take it down into all of this. So,
Yeah.
Why would baggage storage not be more appropriate down by the cruise terminal? 'Cause that's,
I'm gonna give you my guess. I'm gonna give you my one random guess, unless the guy wants to talk. I'm gonna give you my random guess, and I can completely be wrong. I believe at the cruise terminal because of security issues. People getting in and out and the security issues involved, and potentially being able to have a storage facility where ILWU is a porter. They actually load them on and off ships, so they don't want to store that stuff down there. So we kind of have to have it off property, off the cruise terminal property to avoid all of that. And we're really, frankly, for us, we're the first property out of the cruise terminal. There's no better place to do it.
you're looking at doing that out of your own funds, right?
Yes.
Yeah. that's
Yeah,
not to be-
we're already talking to people to build the luggage storage. So not looking for the port on the luggage storage side. There's a lot we're not looking at the port for at all.
well, we've been considering in Northwest anyway, a number of projects to prioritize and so on for our PAIP recommendations. One of them had to do with the fireboat.
Mhm.
That'd be, if it was a tent cover, a cover with open sides, so you could actually see it, would that be of help to the,
I think it would be. I think, in my opinion, I think that in the PIP, you could kind of nitpick little projects, but I would tell the port, it's time to finish the waterfront. And within this finishing of the waterfront, these are the things that should be included. That's what I would do.
yeah, exactly, that's the overall prioritizing that they'll be doing, and Tim will be doing,
Yeah.
and so forth.
I think if you start going for small little things, it's not gonna hit. You need to take the big vision, the big 10-year. I mean, this is not doing the whole that side of the waterfront is not a 2-year vision, frankly. I'm gonna be working on our property for 12 years, most likely 10 to 12 years. So all of this is really a long-term view. So you have to look at it as a long-term vision to finish the waterfront out and create an arrival.
Would it be better to open up the Route J. Scott, or would it be better to move it?
So I think that's
Those
why
are both good
Jonathan and I
questions.
talked about meeting with the current leadership. The old brain trust has either passed away. One of them is ill and he's not able to participate anymore. And I think we need to sit down and say what they really
Yeah.
think they can accomplish, because they had talked about clear plastic tent around the sides with the canopy on the top. They'd originally wanted to move to the $10 million glass structure. It was Geraldine Nats was allegedly going to build down by the ferry building. So I think we just need a conversation, because if they submitted anything to you or.
I think we should include it in it.
Yeah.
I'm a little sensitive about it because in years past, I've tried to help some of these other boats and some of them have accused me of trying to take them over. And I'm like, look, I just want to help. So I'm a little sensitive, but we are reaching out to them to say, hey, what do you want to do? You know, and I think they need to be ground level. Right now, they're up on.
Yeah.
If I was to do it, and I'm not telling them what to do, if I was to do it, I would bring them closer to ground level. I'd put them over in the grass area by the harbor cut there. The grass area where the big Queen Mary propeller is. I put them in the grass area over there at a level in which people can see the fireboat at the entry to the fire department. And I think that's a wonderful place for that boat. And then put a cover over it to protect it from UV. In fact, I found some boats on the East Coast and in some of the icy areas that have covers like that. The glass box is just not gonna work. I mean, it's not sustainable.
It's another bar to.
And what would you do with the area it's in now?
I'd program it, probably. I'd find a way to program it with memorials or eventually see if I could find some more money for buildings. I've got my consultant in DC right now working on deindustrialization of property money. See if there's anything, such a thing as converting industrial property into visitor serving property to see if there's a way we could find some additional federal funds in support of that. So it's not like we're just sitting here waiting for something. It's we're seeking, we are looking for funding to do as much as we can activate on.
What's the pitch you're making to Iowa, to the state of Iowa?
So here's the deal is Iowans very much love their ship. So they don't give money on the pier. I probably can get them to give an Iowa memorial money, but I'm doing it as part of the maintenance and preservation funds because our decks are leaking significantly, which is causing water to come inside the ship and start corroding the inside of the ship, is what took Queen Mary down. And what's interesting is I go around California and I'm like, hey, help us, replace the decks in Iowa, and everybody ignores us. I go to Iowa and I say it, they get all excited. Same thing, it's like what's interesting to each people, right? I can come in here and say, hey, tell the port to give us $5 million to replace the deck, but that's just not what's gonna happen. So that's why I'm going to Iowa. I'm back in Iowa next Monday, actually, Monday, Tuesday.
Somebody raised with me the question of why not ask the Crowley to move to a new location, and that would help free up that passageway.
I have heard in that conversation, I heard that the Port Police may be moving there. I think I heard. But that's something I just heard.
Submarine that they've wanted for years. With their submarine they've wanted for years. I'm making a joke.
Okay. I can tell you the USS Los Angeles submarine, when you said that, the USS Los Angeles submarine sale, which I don't know if you're familiar with, is I haven't seen it in person, but the submarine sale that was on the top of the USS Los Angeles was cut off, and the port has it in storage in Wilmington somewhere. And we'd want to grab that and stick it in the middle of the Los Angeles Memorial. As well as the Los Angeles bow, the cruiser bow that used to be at the Maritime Museum that's apparently also in storage. I think we could put that inside the big building and use that as a projection backdrop.
Yeah, I didn't even know they'd taken it away.
So I think there's some fun things we could do with some of that stuff, frankly, which should be done.
Okay.
Jason, do I recall having a proposal for redo of this area, sort of the entry towards the Iowa at some point a couple of years ago?
Are you thinking of the grant proposal, maybe just the park area?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah, I know what you recall. We went,
state grant.
when we applied for the state grant,
Yeah,
we presented to all the neighborhood councils to get support for the state grant.
right.
That's the money right there, but the state grant didn't come through. It got declined.
Oh.
And so we got Mike Gibson to do an appropriation for that money.
Okay,
Ah,
but you think there's gonna be funding for that?
Oh, there is. For that red spot, for that red section is that money.
Okay,
So the red section, the L, the bottom L here,
right there.
this in here is a community multi-use building. And so that's up to 5,000 square foot community multi-use building, which literally we can say, let's, sit 400 people or whatever in there for an event.
Nice.
And then this is the park section down here, and probably in reality, it's gonna have kind of a little connection like this in the park, but that's what you're looking.
Do you have
Same thing.
funding for commercial kitchen in that little building?
I hope so, yes. I met with 2 architects today and I told them, look, I want you guys to come in pro bono and do a philanthropic thing so we can stretch our money.
All right, a couple of questions. One, where do you contemplate putting the Veterans Memorial in that, somewhere in that red area?
So yes, it will be somewhere in there. Originally, it was gonna be right in here somewhere.
Okay.
San Pedro one. Somewhere in here, I'm pretty confident that I can pick up this property here from the port and lease it, so I'd be able to put something in there as well.
It'd be pretty encompassing then, it'd be pretty.
Well, the San Pedro one is actually already being made. The granite has already gotten here and the granite's being engraved right now. Steve Marconi has been working on that. So the granite's getting engraved as we speak. We just haven't had a place. We're gonna store the granite in our yard until it can install, and that's 3 large panels of granite.
Okay.
So you're talking 15, 20 feet round or something.
My second question, you mentioned leakage due to inclement weather, rain, right? And should that be a priority for you to fix? I mean, what?
Absolutely, it's a priority for us.
But I don't, maybe I wasn't listening right, when I thought you said you weren't gonna ask for PIP funds for that. I mean, to me, that would be critical before you let it get along too far.
It is absolutely critical. That's why I'm going to Iowa, because PIP, to be honest with you, I can't imagine that most of the neighborhood councils would support PIP funds being used for decks.
What is your estimate from the deck repair you have?
We're working to get 3.5 million out of Iowa, and we need another 3.5 million to match it.
How much of that, what you proposed for that, 10 million?
7 million for the
7
deck
million?
repair alone.
But in terms of PIP commitments, that seems an awful small amount.
We had a 3 million match, $3.5 million match. It's that would match the Iowa money that we're working.
I mean, just in my own thinking.
I mean, I would have no objection to you guys writing it, to be honest with you. It's just not usually, that's not usually something from a PIP standpoint that would garner support.
Jonathan, yeah, where Northwest is, and we're still in the process. But we were looking at the connectivity plan and prioritizing projects which forward the objectives of the connectivity. So one priority that we identified was connectivity between the cruise terminal and the Iowa.
Yeah.
And then a continuation on down to Fireboat and the rest of the promenade.
Yeah.
So, and then another one was the big signs, like the entry sign, and then wayfinding and parking signs.
Those are all very important.
Mm-hmm.
Getting that fence down, that 12-foot fence down.
Yeah, that'd be fair. Am I understanding that the parking lot itself is not part of your contract with the port?
It is not. I'd like to peel off. Already mentioned to the port, don't know how well it will float. But we'd like to peel off about this section right here, there. 40% of this lot to carry over, and then that could be like a cruise flow overflow. And Mike Galvin has not objected to it, but we haven't gone negotiating it or anything. I just basically said, hey, I would like to pick up about 40% of the lot so we can control.
But basically, the things that you're proposing in here that for the PIP are actually on port property.
Yes, they're all port property.
I think that's an important thing for people to understand.
Yeah, it's all on port
And
property.
I think for me personally, that current parking lot situation is such a disaster that, I mean, it has to eventually be done.
Yes,
That
it needs to be fixed.
Yes.
It's a mess. The whole thing is a mess.
Yes.
The racetrack, I like look, honestly, it was an industrial facility on an industrial
Right.
waterfront that was redesigned for use as a cruise terminal
Yeah.
facility, which is still industrial in nature. That's now been force fed into a visitor serving
Correct.
destination, and it is not a visitor serving property. And I haven't said it for years, but I used to say, this is a perfect example of a parking lot and a roadway when an engineer designs in theory in their office and never comes out of their office.
No, that's true.
And I'm not trying to say anything, but you worked in the port, you know how some of this works, and it's like.
No, but I'm a resident and I still have problems sometimes getting out
Yes.
of that lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to go down there for a fleet week and have all those fences, it's just It's horrible.
Yeah, it's.
I'd rather walk than park there.
Mhm.
But we now have for legitimate reasons, if you come down there, you'll see K-rails surrounding the parking lot. I don't know if you noticed the concrete
Yes.
K-rail. That's so nobody can blow through the fence. And so the concrete K-rail, okay, well, if we're concerned about it, then let's replace the fence with like nice concrete or bollards or something, so people
Something
can't. blow in there,
attractive,
like,
yeah,
Instead of just dropping 10,000-pound harbor department K-rails everywhere.
right,
But
right.
yeah,
But I just, for being the second largest city, an international gateway, a world-class destination is, what we're trying to achieve.
and we're,
It's-
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the whole Harbor Boulevard, I mean, you captured it, entrance is just awful. I mean, if you think of cities like Palm Desert that have those incredible medians and
welcome.
you've
Yeah.
arrived, you're being
Yes.
welcomed in. To me, that's, I mean, I'm speaking on my personal feelings, but it's just, we've got to do something with Harbor Boulevard and that
Well,
entrance.
that's the gateway and
Yeah.
it's lacking identity and I
The
mean, it's.
Olympics
Lacking arrival.
coming.
Yeah, it's a lacking a full arrival. And so people don't know whether they come here to the right place or not. And it's like, okay, we're getting ready to open West Harbor and we've got Alta Sea
Right.
being built up and you've got everything down that direction. and you have to traverse this 0.6 miles before you get to a point where it's like, oh, there is something going on here.
Well, and we'll have some ancillary Olympic events here in San Pedro because I guess they like to practice on
Yeah.
I don't know anything about sailing, but the outer harbor area. And so we will be hosting, people, for the Olympics here in town. So we've got to attack it. Now's the time in my.
Javier, there's a question on Zoom.
Oh.
Let's
Can't see it.
Sergio?
Let me close this.
Sergio.
Oh, Sergio.
You made it.
There you go.
Yes.
You have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you and good evening. Sorry for not being there in person, but I had a conflict. I had the Vincent Thomas Bridge Community Advisory Committee meeting that I had to attend. That one's virtual, so I just did it from home. But I'm speaking now as myself and not like you're done talking to lower your, I'm sorry. And not that of the council office, but I just want to say that I too am happy to see this project. I think all of us share in the feeling that Harbor Boulevard just does not look nice. And I think many of us have been talking for a while now about the entrance into San Pedro, into the Harbor Boulevard, to this water class promenade. And I'm excited to see something, whether it's this or whether it's something else. We're pretty jazzed about it. I mean, in the years ago, when I worked for then Councilmember Hahn, Elisa and I did, I had the opportunity to attend the annual waterfront conference. I think it was twice a year actually. And we were able to visit many waterfronts around the
New
country
York.
and in Canada. And we saw what it was like to convert industrial waterfronts to nice urban waterfronts. One that comes to mind, not necessarily for here, but was Milwaukee. Milwaukee's third ward or fourth ward, whatever it was called, some ward, ninth ward, I don't know. It was a ward. It was an old like warehouse district, and it was converted to something beautiful. Not necessarily for San Pedro, because San Pedro is not a warehouse area, maybe Wilmington, but the idea of having something that says you're here, you've arrived, welcome, is amazing. We're spending millions of dollars. Well, the port spent 266 million on the waterfront so far. We're spending millions on West Harbor, as you mentioned, and Altasea, having some kind of entrance and a welcome.
And you can't, and Sergio, you're right, you don't feel it. You don't feel that port investment when you come in off the freeway. I mean, as you mentioned, Jonathan, when you get farther down, you begin to see it, but not when you're coming down.
Well, it's just picking up. We're getting over between, if you look at the cruise terminal property and the Iowa together, you got over about 1.4 million visitors a year right now, 1.5 million visitors a year going to right there to that one property. And like most of them come there and visit it and then get in their car and
We
leave.
want to capture them.
And it's like,
and bring them
nobody's
down.
benefiting from this. Huh?
Yeah.
It's not that many people, so a lot more there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if we had a waterfront that people wanted to stay in, it'd be 2, 3, 4 million people.
How many visitors do you have for the hour?
About 250,000, not including Fleet Week.
What is the occupancy level of the whole parking lot area between the cruise terminal and
You asked me that. I don't know. It's 100 or 1,500.
We could ask.
2,000
is it
cars. I have no
PPP?
idea.
I mean, how full is it at any given time?
Oh my God, it's full almost all the time.
Yeah.
And just to add a little bit more, I mean, we just spent $500,000 on the connectivity plan, right? Like it's sort of like a blueprint of how we can maybe move forward. We all have different opinions on that, right? But it could serve as a blueprint. And one of the things it talked about was literally connecting stuff. Right now, people get off that ship on the cruise terminal and they go home. There's nothing that connects them. And you're right. We see people carrying their luggage all over town, but to be able to connect them to to connect those folks to walk towards the Iowa. And then to get the people to walk from the Iowa to downtown harbor and onto the waterfront promenade and onto West Harbor. That is what we need. That is connecting the people there. We have 1 million people who come to that cruise terminal every single year. We're going to increase those numbers in the next few years. We know that already. And so how do we bring them? How do we captivate them? How do we bring them and lock them in to be able to spend more time? And I think this is a great start. The concept that is, whether or not, it's exactly this, the details are going to be changed. I mean, as Jonathan mentioned, he hired an architect just on the fly to design this, and this is what he came up with,
Right.
or she came up with, or whatever the person came up with, is amazing. Now imagine what we can come up with if we actually spend more time and some detail in it. And so, Jonathan, just kudos to you for beginning this process, for beginning the discussion. I know that that we all know that parking lot needs some love, but we've seen some beautiful parking lots around, in other areas. There's no reason why this can't be full of greenery and beauty and what have you. So thank you. I speak on behalf of myself and not that of the council member or the office, for the record. We don't have a position.
Put your name in the
I
minutes.
just wanted to say.
Thank you, Sergio. Private citizen Sergio, thank you.
Private citizen Sergio.
Well, thank you. Central has not prioritized the projects that we want to keep with the PAIP funds. So that's the next step for us. Northwest is doing a great job on that, but I think, we'll be looking at that as well. And I know there's a joint effort to try to get the community input.
Yeah.
Um,
We join between,
So.
and we'd love to have the chamber join us as well.
Yeah, and then, Doug and Robin, I know that coastal, we worked on a letter and submitted it to the port. Is it possible maybe to, add some more, like maybe look at Jonathan's proposal at land use at coastal and maybe add a few things to our letter?
Yeah, I'll pipe up here because we had Sergio do the presentation at our board meeting. And as I have reminded everybody, we voted on our project's priorities November. And I did mention at that time at our board meeting that we potentially will be looking at the stuff Jonathan's proposed with an eye toward potentially adding some or all of it into our recommendations. But beyond that, I think it would be helpful for us. I don't know how soon Central or Northwest is going to have stuff, but once you're ready with that, we can look at that too, I would guess. Right, Robin?
Sure.
Yeah, Central will be looking at that next couple of weeks, so we should have something soon.
Okay.
Well, keep us in the loop then, please.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
It's because I would like actually, our board meeting in March is March the 18th, 19th, somewhere in there. And I know
18th?
Central meets the day after we do, but will Northwest have their stuff together?
No, because we're having the public input on the first Thursday in April, so
Okay, all right.
Susan, April, March.
no, first Thursday
Okay.
in April, we're doing the public.
All right.
So we have some preliminary
Okay,
things,
but we can
we
look
want
at the
public
Iowa, we can look at the
first.
Iowa stuff certainly for this
And
month.
then, Robin, are we the 2nd or the 9th for land use for coastal for March?
I think it's the 9th. Let me double check.
9th, okay.
Yeah, it would, because it's before a head of agenda.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, that's correct, the 9th.
thank you.
Very good. Any further questions? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, we
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you for your time, and definitely we are in support of improving that whole area.
Yeah.
Yes, it's-
So exciting.
It's okay.
I got 3 or 4 already.
You don't want more, you can hand them out.
They're kind of a hurry, I don't get it.
Now you're going home with big versions of them, so.
So, if you have some extra, we'll take them to the fourth phase.
You want to?
Well, only if you have some from that.
Should I go on, Javier?
Yes, just waiting to,
It's in
Close up, there you go.
transition.
close up this item and give it.
That's funny.
Am I loud enough or do I need to turn my speaker up?
We could hear you fine.
Okay, good.
I'm coming, but we're gonna adjourn into PAI.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
In the morning, keep.
Yeah, and one of these meeting comments,
When you're talking about?
March 12th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I may be here, but.
okay.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good night.
By the way, I wouldn't say no to 3.5 million back in action. Just want to make it clear, just maybe that's not very appealing. I definitely would say no. Have a good night.
All right.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to our next item on the agenda, which is discussion on the executive directive ED1 draft. And Robin, you were going to help us understand that a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think any of our councils have done a CIS on this, and I think we need to think about whether we want to give some input. So I think everyone knows what ED1 is. We saw a project on that in this meeting a few months ago. And it's the Executive Directive 1. It's the first executive directive from Mayor Bass right after she was after she went into office. And this is the city council, I think it was in June, adopted a motion to make it into an ordinance. So really what I'm talking about is the making of ED1 into what's going to be called the 100% affordable housing streamlining ordinance. It's going to be different than ED1. And they've made a lot of changes. Let's see, it actually was heard by the City Planning Commission in November. You might remember I had this on the agenda in December because I was really worried it was going to be fast tracked through, or maybe it was November. Anyway, at the end of the year, and but it still has not gone to Plum. I think it might have gone to Plum, and then they asked city planning and city attorney, etc., to get back to them on certain issues. So it's still pending going to Plum. Let me give you the council file number for those of you who want to do a little bit of research on this. It's 23-0623. And you'll find a few CISs in there to look at what the other neighborhood councils are concerned about. I reached out to city planning in anticipation of our meeting tonight to ask them about the status, because I've had trouble getting any information at all on this since the CPC meeting. So the first person I heard from was Matt Glesney. And he says, as we know, it's been approved by CPC. It's pending being scheduled at Plum. We don't have a specific date certain, but there's a desire to move forward quickly, as you could imagine the mayor would want to do. He had heard some discussion of potential amendments that some council members may be exploring, but he didn't want to speculate on what those were. But he said letters can still be sent to the council file, CISs, and he recommends doing that as soon as possible. And I also wrote to the mayor's office. Some of you may know Kevin Keller. And he said the next Plum meeting is on March 5th, and then there's another one on March 19th. He doesn't expect it to be on the 5th, but it could very well go on March 19th. So I know that doesn't work out very well with our board meeting schedule, but you might be able to have a special meeting or something like that. In terms of changes from ED1, I think you know, if you know some of the particulars, this actually is not applicable in the coastal zone. It's not applicable in single family zones. And it is applicable in multifamily zones that allow the construction of 5 or more residential units. It's not applicable where a subdivision map act is involved. It's not applicable where there's a historic resource. And there's a few others. They originally were allowing 2 off-menu density bonuses or waivers for these projects. They've now changed that to 5 plus 1 waiver, which is, I'm sure you understand, is a huge change, which means that there's going to be a lot of flexibility with these things. They don't, yeah. So we're waiting to find out. I do not know what the council offices are talking about that Matt Glesney referenced, but we may want to ask our council office what how they feel about it and if they're considering supporting any changes. But I remember hearing in this meeting, at one of our meetings, there were some concerns about some ED1 projects that seemed, you know, a little bit out of control, really, really large in the neighborhoods where they were going. So to the extent there is concern, I recommend you go to the council file and, you know, get more information about it. And I think the main area where neighborhood councils are providing comments are, they think there are too many density bonuses being allowed. That's an awful lot, 5 plus a waiver. I mean, you could do just about anything. There is a limit on how many stories you can add there. You cannot go more than double the allowable floor area ratio, but that's still a big change. And then there's some pretty big variances allowed for side yards too. Like, for example, Greater Toluca Lake is saying they oppose the transfer of decision-making authority from appointed and elected officials to staff, basically the planning staff. And it sets the stage for abuse. Another council is concerned about not having site plan review hearings and alarmed about up to 5 density bonuses. And they just think the community plan should be considered, etc. So and people are also concerned that the affordable housing is going to be tracked. That, you know, 100% affordable housing projects that will be deed restricted, but who's going to be checking? Who's going to make sure that happens? And those units are really going to verified low-income households. So those are the type of CISs I saw at the council file. I'm happy to be a resource. If any of you have more questions, I've got everything here in my file. I can look it up or talk it through with you. But I you know, it's kind of gone under the radar, frankly. And it could have a really big impact on communities. So I think it'd be important for you to look into it and maybe give your feedback to the Plum and our own council member McCosker. Does anybody have any questions?
I was gonna say, I mean, I think it's great that we are talking about it because I kind of knew about it, but I really kind of forgotten about. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, the timing of it is great for us to make give our input into it, and definitely get in response to that CIS.
If I find out that Plum is coming up, I'll alert everybody that, you know, if you want to give some input, just do it as individuals or get to McCosker's office to give your opinion or whatever. But meantime, you should probably try to put something through your board.
And Neighbors United said they'll send out a letter that people can use if they want. They'll be easy to send in, so we can circulate that if people want.
Yeah, and I talked to Pamela Thornton at the CD 15, but I didn't get their take into it. So I think that'll be the next step to find out, you know, what their position is on that.
Robin, is there anything called out about commercial corridors? And I'm gonna go back and take another look at it. Or commercial zones or,
It's just wherever housing is allowed, you know, what it is,
okay,
5 or
okay.
more units, except for single family, which
Okay,
wouldn't allow it
thank
anyway.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody has comments or questions? Well, thank you, Robin.
Sure. And Diana, are you gonna circulate that form letter you mentioned?
If we get one.
Oh, I thought you said we had one. Okay.
No, they said they may be sending one with.
Oh, okay. Okay, you're welcome. And feel free to contact me if you want to know more information.
Excellent, thank you. We'll probably be talking about that in Central's next meeting. Very good. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is updates and other items of interest for the committee. Diana, do we have any?
Diana was planning to be here. So she
I
doesn't
know, but you are always informed.
And then Sergio, are you still there?
He left.
Oh, he left. So I talked to Amanda.
I'm still here.
Oh, so
That's interesting.
Amanda reported that the Jedi Zone, the draft is being reviewed and she and the council office are working to get it scheduled at Trade, Tourism, and the triple T, whatever the third T is. Trade, Tourism, and anyway, hopefully in March. Is that what you're hearing?
That is correct.
Okay, so I'll let
I
everybody.
believe it would be the second meeting in March, I think.
Okay, so I'll let everybody know because it would be great. Some of us are gonna go to downtown to testify at committee in support of the Jedi Zone, and I'll let everybody know. We'll put some carpools together. That's
Thank
usually a 2 o'clock meeting, Sergio?
It is at 2 o'clock at City Hall.
Okay, yeah, so we'll do that. Super exciting that, I thank you and Amanda for all your work on the Jedi Zone.
Is it also virtual if people want to testify virtually?
No,
No.
Yeah, I guess city.
committee
council is-
meetings are not,
Yeah.
we don't take testimony at committee meetings virtually. We
Okay.
still do take testimony virtually for city council meetings. So when it gets to council, and it will get to council, you will be able to provide testimony virtually there. However, if there is a public hearing at committee, there is not necessarily a public hearing at council.
Right.
Right.
I think,
It's not.
I know, I just think it's important for some of us to go down for committee.
Yeah, no.
What date was that?
I think, right, Sergio, it looks like it would be if it's the second Tuesday in March, it'd be Tuesday, March 12th at 2 p.m. at City Hall.
I'm sorry, what I meant was the second triple T meeting in March.
Is that the, okay,
Let me
I'll
look.
get,
Let me look real quick. I have.
okay, yeah, I'm gonna,
It would be March 19th.
March 19th, 2 p.m. Okay, if you're interested, let me know. And if we will confirm that it's going on, that's what Amanda's working on right now. Is to confirm it's gonna be at that committee meeting.
Sergio, do you know the council file number for the letter regarding the library? The council file regarding the copy we got does not have a council file number on it. It's the copy I got.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I
I
must have
meant the
missed
motion. I said letter.
Yeah, Anissa did not. I looked and I don't see I don't see it on
And
there.
it was sent to us before it was a signed copy.
Right.
This,
Do you know,
is this
Sergio?
regarding the budget?
Yes, the
The library.
library. Back on the library.
So I missed your presentation, so I have no idea what you're talking about, but I think
Oh.
what you're talking about is possibly there was budget language in last year's budget for San Pedro Library. Is that particular talking about, or is there something else?
So Anissa was working with the council member on a motion to ask for a report back from Library and General Services in 15 days on the cost of the roof replacement.
Oh, okay. Let me get it for
yeah.
you right now while you're deliberating.
Okay. So, yeah, because this was February 14th, and she said we plan to introduce it on Friday, so that would have been Friday the 16th. if it went according to plan.
Let me get it for you real quick. I believe it is in the file.
Okay.
All right, while we wait for Sergio, we're gonna move on to the next item, which is public comments on items not on the agenda. Does anybody have anything?
I'll throw one out there for anybody who's got nothing to do this Sunday afternoon. The sun will come out.
You all.
Rumor has it, but at at Richard Henry Dana Middle School here in San Pedro, we're having, because our theater is closed, we'll be showing the Wild and Scenic Film Festival at Richard Henry Dana Middle School. As of yesterday morning, they'd already sold 500 tickets.
We're running it in our chamber newsletter.
I saw that this morning.
It's the Wild what?
Wild and Scenic Film Festival.
Wild Scenic.
Yeah, it's a series of this year, 11 short films. So they range from 3 or 4 minutes up to half hour or so. One after another, and we've shown them at the Warner Grand for, gosh.
The marketing is great. The flyer and everything is really great.
And the Warner Grand is a wonderful venue. Hopefully the Dana Auditorium will be just as nice. We're gonna have a live sloth at intermission if anybody wants to.
I would like to see a lot of stuff, actually.
The real
Picture
sloth.
one.
What time does it start?
4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. And you can get tickets online at the Land Conservancy website or pay $5 more and get them at the door.
A live what?
Sloth.
Sloth.
SLOTH?
Yes. A slow moving mammal.
Wow.
Yes. Or somebody that's messy, right?
Mr. Chairman.
I would just point out a slow-moving mammal describes several neighborhood council board members, but I will not name names.
Ellen, when's the date of the Land Conservancy? I think I have a flyer at home, but
Sunday.
this Sunday?
Yeah.
And 4.
This Sunday at 4. There will be a bar. If anybody is thirsty.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I do have the
Yes.
council file number now.
Oh, thank you, Sergio.
It's council
What?
file 240182.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Sergio.
I can forward you the motion if you would like. Or you're
Yes.
okay.
Sergio, maybe at a future meeting, we can get an EIFD update.
Sure, just let me know.
You.
But let me know like ahead of time and not like the P-bid did and invite me an hour before their meeting.
I'll leave that to Javier and Diana for scheduling, but hopefully they won't do that to you.
Well,
Okay.
we already put it out there, so we're just gonna maybe set a date for that.
Yeah, perfect. I can set a date and I can come and speak. It is a lot of updates. In fact, if you want, I can come to the next one because there is a lot going on it.
Definitely,
The
we'll,
next,
Could you come in person?
Yeah, of course.
the next meeting, we're going to have the city plan
funny.
housing, the housing element, whatever they finally decided to recommend.
Okay,
Wow.
well, we'll definitely work it into the agenda if we can, Sergio.
Javier or Diana, just let me know. It's like whenever you have a date and I can add it to my schedule.
Excellent.
If Diana's still here.
If she's not traveling, but.
Diana,
we'll-
where is your next trip?
Well, we were supposed to leave last Friday from Morocco and it's on hold right now until we figure out what's going on with my neck. When we figure that out, we may leave.
Well, have fun in Morocco and Greece and everywhere else you're going to be attending.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, that concludes our meeting and our next meeting is March 27th for everybody. So look out for the agenda. And thank you, everyone.
So Jonathan said he may have left earphones. I'm not seeing them, but if you see them on your way out, let me know.
Okay.
I don't think they're here.
All right. Well, good night.
Thanks, guys.
They're not here.